How do I quickly connect a wireless sensor and graph its readings?
So when we launch Capstone, it presents us some tiles. These are some quick start options for popular ways to use Capstone. I immediately see this top tile called Sensor Data, and if I hover my cursor over it, you'll see that it tells me in a tooltip, this allows me to connect my sensor and record data in a graph. That sounds perfect for what I'd like to do here, so I'm simply going to click on the Sensor Data tile. And Capstone is going to do a couple things. It's going to give me a big graph in the background there. And importantly, it's going to open up what we call the hardware setup panel, which is a prompt for me to connect my wireless sensor. So let's figure out how to do that. The wireless motion sensor, like all our wireless sensors, has a built-in battery. So I'm going to turn the power on to that sensor by pressing the power button. After I do that, I can see on the sensor that there is a Bluetooth light, and it's currently blinking red, indicating that this sensor is available to be connected to Capstone. Now, to better simulate what happens in your classroom, I'm going to turn on another motion sensor that I have on the table next to me. And we can see that all the available PASCO wireless sensors show up in the hardware setup panel under a title called Available Wireless Devices. So just as in your classroom, I need to figure out, well, which of these sensors do I want to connect to, which would be appropriate for me. So what we can do is look at the sensor itself. And on the sensor case, there is a 6-digit ID. And that 6-digit ID is going to correspond, hopefully, to one of the sensors that you see here. In my case, it's that 003-183. So all I need to do is click on that in the available wireless devices list. And when I do so, Capstone is going to make a wireless BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy connection to that sensor. And on the sensor itself, I can determine that I've connected to Capstone because the Bluetooth light is now blinking green, and this sensor is no longer available to anyone else in my lab to use it. And we can also see in Capstone's hardware setup panel that it has moved to the top of this list here. It is now a connected device in this list. So now that I've connected my wireless motion sensor, I'm going to place it under the mass here and make sure I line it up fairly well. All right, so I'm going to close the hardware setup panel simply by tapping on the button here. And the important thing that's happened in the background is Capstone has taken that graph, realized we've connected a motion sensor, and it selected the primary measurement from that motion sensor and placed it automatically on the y-axis. So that's position coming from the motion sensor, and it has defaulted to position on the y-axis of this graph and to time on the x-axis. Let me now set these masses in motion above the motion sensor, and I just need to start collecting data now from the sensor. And to do that, I'm going to go down to the controls palette where I can see a big red record button. So I'll press record. And we can see immediately that when I press record, we start getting position versus time data plotted here in the graph. Each of those dots is a position measurement. And you can see that by default, they are connected by straight lines. So we can follow it a little better.